There's going to be a lot to talk about considering it's been a minute.
I'm actually going to start crying. Yeah, not to be dramatic, but it is insane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast.
I know, we have a guest on and we're so excited.
We were just, we did an episode right before this and we were just talking about how excited we are to have you on.
Oh, likewise. Likewise.
Do you want to give a little bit of an intro? I'm sure we'll chat later. But
Sure, absolutely. My name is Katy Bellotte. I am a multi-hyphenate. I do a lot of things, but all kind of under the umbrella of digital creating, making things digitally. And I started out with graphic design in college and kind of just went from there. But I've been creating content on the internet since I was 15.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you started, did you start on YouTube?
Started on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like the landscape of YouTube looks so different.
Oh, I know.
At that time, right?
Yeah, but if you asked me back then if I'd still be making YouTube videos,
You wouldn't,
I kind of had it in my mind that I was like, oh, this is like a fun hobby before I get my real job.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
But here I am.
And that's so cool that you can make it your job into something that you actually like.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I feel like that era of like starting YouTube too, you didn't know what you were expecting.
No.
Yeah, you were just kind of like hitting record.
And I'm actually so grateful for that because I feel like there was a lot less pressure back then.
Totally.
And I do feel for people that are starting out now with these lofty goals of being influencer. That wasn't even a term. Influencer was not a term until like 2012 maybe.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I still not super comfortable with that term.
Totally.
Like, I just feel like it's so, people have, it's polarizing.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
We both were big YouTube. Like, we used to watch so much
many
YouTube
YouTubers, like
growing
all
up.
the OG.
That's how I started.
Yeah.
I started as a watcher, as a viewer, as a silent viewer.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
Very confident teenager.
Cool.
What was your first video that you ever made?
I think my first video was called Introduction.
Okay.
Truly. And I was using my parents' ancient Sony massive camcorder in their room. I think they had gone somewhere. This was back when I started my YouTube channel. My mom was actually going through cancer treatment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, she's, thank God, she's
Recovered.
great today,
Okay.
yes, but at that time I feel like I had a little bit less supervision because of that. Like, this didn't really occur to me until recently, actually.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, no one really seemed to be monitoring me at this time. But I still have a younger sister, and so, like, of course, and your parents are doing the best they can. They
Totally.
worked full time.
Yeah.
But I just remember, like, having this, like, these random pockets of free time when no one was watching me. And I
And
would
you were
just
like, camera
film,
time.
edit, upload.
That's
no
amazing.
one really watching what I was doing, and I'm very grateful for that because I feel like that was when I was really able to be creative and
That is
have
amazing.
an outlet that wasn't sports, which I feel like was
Totally.
what, was expected of you at that age.
Did you keep it hidden from like people at school and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, Hello Katy XO was my username.
Wait, that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it worked. I was
did
very,
work.
very proud of that one.
Yeah.
Just tack on XO.
Yes.
Everyone was just tacking on XO.
XO.
Like, everyone had XO.
You're so
or,
right. Like Mac Baby XO.
XO.
Yeah.
No, or like just random numbers.
Totally.
And now you do not see that now.
Yeah.
No.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I think we should bring it back.
At least so in the username. That's
No,
cool.
usernames were they were actual usernames. Now it's just everyone's name, which is fine, but it also just, it tells you too much, I think. It's like, this is a real person. Like, I liked having my alter ego, and I feel like having a username like that, it gives you an alter ego.
Yeah.
That is true.
I remember when I first like made an Instagram account like way back when, I like made it like something food blah 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 blah, and like that was like my username.
Yeah.
And now I feel like everyone's username is kind of like their name. And,
Yeah. Or people loved like beauty.
Yeah.
Like beauty. And it's just one of those things where I think back in that time, I had this crazy confidence for a teenager on the internet, not in real life. I was very shy in real life. But I was like, I would see other people with full on, like, having like makeup artists that have degrees in it, or like actual clients credentials. And I'm like, no, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I would do makeup tutorials, and like it just gave you this
so fun.
like anyone could do it, anyone could play.
Yeah.
And now I feel like you can too, but people are much more critical.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very
True.
glad I grew up in that age where I could post a smoky eye tutorial that looked like I got punched in the face.
Yes.
But no one said anything negative.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I always say this, like 13-year-olds now look so different than we looked at 13.
literally.
And I kind of feel bad because they're growing up with so much more scrutinization. Like,
Oh, yeah.
everything they do is documented. I didn't have a
We
phone
didn't
at
have
13.
that.
So like,
Yeah.
I could do whatever.
Yeah.
And I was kind of figuring out, because you're figuring who you are out at that
Yeah.
time.
Right.
And for
Yeah.
everyone to be seeing it at the same time, it's scary. Like, it is hard.
is.
And not even like personal, because of course, you know, a lot of people are just silent viewers.
Yes.
But it's still altering the way that they're growing up.
Yes.
Because they're seeing other people get ripped apart for like
Yes.
certain elements. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is something I struggled with was matching my foundation to my neck. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
there's many documented videos of me struggling to match my foundation. Today, it's like, kids will never have that problem. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, also kids are wearing foundation, which is, you know, again, it's like,
Everyone's
it's just
And going to Sephora,
going to Sephora.
Yeah.
No, I just saw, I think Dove is doing a campaign with
With-
that right now. With
wow.
this was 10 years old in 2000 and whatever, and then this is 10 years old now.
Wow.
And it's just,
Interesting.
yeah, I think, and it was really, the comments on the campaign were very split. You know,
Wow.
people being like, well, isn't it fun though that they get to go to Sephora with their mom and like have
Yeah.
that experience? And I'm like, sure, but I think if it's altering
Yes.
know, their beauty standards, like thinking they have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's when there's a problem.
I think it's fun. I think we should let kids be kids, though, right? Like, you need that
Yeah.
time where you're not really caring about how you look, where you're just figuring it out, where you don't
Yeah.
feel the, like, self-consciousness.
Yeah.
So that you can, I don't know.
So I'm grateful for awkward phases
Yeah.
growing
Oh,
up.
same. No, I think my awkward phase made me who I am.
Literally.
And it's kind of just fun to like dig up old photos
Yeah.
and like just laugh.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have those, you know?
Yeah.
Every so often, Google Photos will give me a little notification, and I am taken back to what I looked like
Oh,
as
yeah.
10.
And we thought we looked so cool, too.
I know, that's
Well,
the
that's all that
thing.
matters.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That we thought we were cool.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, like the hair feathers, the like,
The
Oh,
hair
the hair
feathers.
Do you remember the hair
feathers.
feathers?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm really excited for Coachella content right now. And I remember, like,
Yeah.
Coachella fashion back then was so influencing,
Different.
too.
Yeah.
And different. Like, the flower crowns. I was obsessed with flower crowns.
Yeah.
There was a time where I was like, this is all I'm
This
gonna
is the
do.
thing.
This is
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So after college, you moved to New York.
I did.
Yes.
Yes.
And how long has it been since you've moved?
Oh my gosh, 2018. I moved right after graduation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved here. I went to college in North Carolina, but I had actually, the entire time I was in college, I was still creating content, so I was
Yeah.
still
Okay.
kind of working, but
Mhm.
it wasn't to the degree it
Right.
is now. Like, of course, I didn't have as many, I just wasn't focused on it as a
Yes.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire time I was in school, I was thinking, oh, well, once I graduate, then I will get a real job, and that I'll figure out what to do with this
Yeah.
hobby.
Yeah.
So I did. I got a corporate job
Okay.
right after college, and I had gotten like the offer. So I went straight from graduation, like home quickly, then straight to New York City.
And
I had
went
already
to-
found my apartment. That
Oh,
was
wow.
yeah, and I worked in beauty marketing for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as like kind of a stop on the way to figure out like, okay, can I do this full time? Can I do my actual passion? I did like my role at the company. It taught me a lot, but I was like, I just feel like I want to bet on myself here for a
Yeah.
minute. And if it fails, okay, I have a degree, you know?
Yeah.
I'm in New York
And
City.
at least you tried.
Yeah, at least I tried.
And you're right, there are a lot of opportunities here, too. You can kind of figure your way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew I would regret if I never tried.
Yes. Yeah.
And I tell myself this all the time. It's like, I'll never be this young again.
Yeah.
I'll never be this free of responsibility. I mean,
Yes.
granted, I have responsibilities, but I don't have like kids and a husband and a house.
Yes.
And, you know, so you have to remember
Yeah.
that before
Yeah.
it's too late.
Yeah.
Totally.
Not that it's ever too late, but I know for myself, I was like, this is the perfect time.
Yeah.
And that even though there's no such thing as a perfect time.
Yeah, I think we both are kind of in that space right now where it's been 3 years since we graduated college.
Yeah.
And we've been in corporate jobs since we graduated. So it's us kind of trying to figure out, like,
What's next?
yeah, what's next? Like,
We're just
is
like
this
trying
what we
something
want?
new.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of hear your story, too, and
Yeah.
see how you were able to do that.
Yeah, but it's great you guys have this. I feel like I always say, I mean, it doesn't obviously need to be something so public and so, but I think everyone should have that little like passion thing that they do.
Totally.
Even if it feels like you don't have time, like you will make the time for the things that like,
I
you know,
agree.
you will.
100%.
100%.
Like, because we, working a 9 to 5 and also like balancing this can sometimes feel so hard. But then every time we like step into the studio and like we're meeting new people and talking about different things, I'm like, it reminds like us like how much like we actually love it.
Also, it's a sense of accomplishment, I think, because we record, edit, like come up with the ideas, do everything on our own. So it just feels like, okay, this is something that like is mine. Like no one's telling me, I don't have a boss telling me how to do it. Like I can, we get to do what we want with it, and it's really fun.
It is nice. It's nice to. I feel the exact same way because when I was in corporate, I think that was my biggest problem with working in corporate was just the fact that I didn't have much freedom to create, and the things that I did create. I mean, granted, I was very low on the totem pole. Maybe if I'd stayed, things would have been different. But I was just like, wait a minute. I went from having all of this creative power on my own channels and like getting rewarded for it. Like I was working with some cool brands in college, and going from that to then being like having to work under a boss that just didn't seem to see, like they didn't really see my ideas as being something that could change things. I was working in a very large beauty brand. So, of course, it's not like an easy approval process. It has to go through a ton of people. And that, just comparing that to the world of my own social media where I can just, of course things take planning and if I work with brands, there's approval, but it's just different. It's like just me. But there is a downside to that because then if something goes wrong or like something flops, it's like the only person you can blame is yourself.
It's yourself.
So
that's true.
it's, I've worked on just not blaming anyone. Just being like, some things just don't go well.
Totally.
And that's fine. And my new strategy is post and ghost. Post and ghost.
I love that.
I love that.
At least just for a little while.
Totally.
Because I think my biggest problem with social media, my own social media, is I'll post something and I'll just like watch and see, and I'm like, oh no, it's flopping. Oh no. But it's one of those things where like a TikTok is, something very new for me. I'm very used to long form content. But it's one of those things where like something that doesn't do well in like the first couple days could pop off in a week.
Totally.
But it's social media. It's like gambling.
It is. Wait, that's a good way to
Because you're leaving it up to the universe's control.
No, and it's just crazy how these celebrities can be made overnight by an algorithm that no one understands.
Literally.
I agree with you. And I think it's a lot of like me. I also remind myself now, you can only control the input. You can't really control who's watching it. You can try your best to market it and create good content and do what you're doing, but then you kind of have to leave it to the universe.
And you tried your
and
best.
Just trust the universe is is working for you.
No, exactly. And I feel like a lot of it does, and of course it's great to have this job. I'm like so grateful, but it does definitely kind of, it touches on those insecurities of yours a lot. If you have an insecurity, it just highlights it. Because, physical or just mental. For me, it's of course staring at myself every day. I never thought I needed Botox until I was like watching. I'm like, oh my god,
that is a good point.
Of course, I know I don't need. I always have to bring myself back down to earth, but I will say, like, looking at yourself, hearing yourself talk every day. There's a great case study to be made from my old YouTube videos because now I speak differently.
Really?
Because I remember growing up and watching listening back to videos and seeing where I either say like or too much. I have the filler words, or I am mumbling. And I remember seeing this one comment a couple of years ago saying, Katy, I'm so grateful for the way you speak. I learned English watching your videos, or it helped me learn English. I'm like, interesting. Didn't know that, but there's certain things, like ways that you change yourself just over time. And it does impact you.
Wow, I never thought about that aspect
of
like
positives,
constantly.
Positives and negatives.
So I have a question. What is your favorite, platform to create on? You said you've been used to long form content. So how do you feel about TikTok? Is it something you're still figuring out? Do you like the shorter form?
I like TikTok as a consumer. I like my attention span.
Favors
it. I think I I view content differently depending on the platform. With YouTube, I'll put it on my TV,
right.
kind of as a podcast in a way. Yeah. I love podcasts. I think that's my favorite form of content to consume because I can multitask.
Me too.
And it's just, I'm addicted to some podcasts. I need to tune in every day. I know which days they come out. I've gotten so
waiting for
used to the people. I feel like I know them. Yeah. You know, that's how I am with podcasts. But I feel like I go through waves. There's weeks when I don't go on TikTok more than twice, you know, just to kind of post something and then leave. But then of course I like to know what's going on because people are talking about stuff on TikTok and I'm like, what's going on? What's the tea? I need to know. But I definitely prefer creating. I like YouTube, of course, because it feels like a nod to my younger self. Every time I post anything, I'm like, I wonder what 15-year-old Katie would think of this. Or like, you know, it's a time capsule.
Yeah. That's fun. One thing I love about your YouTube videos is like I feel like every time someone watches it, like it's like a story. Yeah. Like your editing style is like it's beautiful. So I needed to tell you that.
Thank you. No, that's the one thing I'll never outsource is my video editing.
Okay.
Yeah. I no shade to anyone who does. Yeah. That is what I most love to do.
Yeah, and I do think it makes a difference. Like, you're creating the content, but then how you're presenting it is also part of telling, the story and how it comes across to people. So
it's fun for me. And one thing I've learned about this career, it's, of course, there's ways that you can make it more efficient or yourself more efficient. You can, increase your team and scale and all those sorts of things. But I feel like for me, every time I've hired anyone to help me with things, it's just gone terribly. Like I'm a control freak.
Yeah, you're like, I can do this. Yeah.
I have one podcast that is history based. Yes. And that one I hired a researcher to help me because she's actually qualified to do that. Nice. So I think that I've figured out scaling works when I find someone that is just like it's necessary. Yeah. Right. When it comes to someone helping me film and stuff, I'm literally such a control freak. Yeah. Like, I would rather just do it myself. Yeah. And maybe it'll take me 10 times longer. Yeah. But then it's like all mine.
Yeah. Totally. Would you say you're like a perfectionist when it comes to
1,000%. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. I think it's like that artist background or like you like see something and you want it to look a certain way and as soon as you like try to give it to someone else, they'll get there but they won't exactly do what you had envisioned. Yeah.
No, I've tried over the years, but it's also I don't know. I with the influencer space, I feel like a lot of times it's the personal touch is lost.
Yeah. That's true.
Not always, but I think when you start to see yourself as a brand, you kind of lose a little part of you that is the reason why people follow you to begin with.
That's true.
So, people do different things depending on like what they try to focus on, and I feel like a lot of people you would never know they've had help with their content, and that's on good hiring.
That's true.
But I just don't have the patience for it. Yeah. Like it's a me problem.
Yeah.
You have your podcast with your two best friends. Mm-hmm. How did that come about, and even just like how did you guys even start it?
I had my own personal podcast for a few years prior, and I always just felt like something was missing, like the conversation aspect.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, I mean, whenever I'm thinking of new content ideas, I think about what do I like to watch? What do I like to listen to? Mm-hmm. That matters because a lot of people out there are just like me in that way, and there's certain things that we listen to or watch one time, we're like, not for me. Yeah. And then you never go back. And I try to take note of those things in myself. And one thing I noticed is I really love conversation podcasts. Yeah. And especially in like the dating realm, like the dating relationships realm, it just makes more sense when it's like a conversation. Yeah. It feels like the genuine conversations you have with your friends that you have and you're like, darn, that was a really good conversation. Yeah, we should have recorded that.
I know. And it's fun to like go back and listen to too, right? Like just go back and listen to your conversations with your friends about all the past
dates you've been on.
Crazy. Yeah. I'm in my very first relationship right now. Yeah. And it's so fun to go back and listen and be like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Wait, I think I'm in that. Okay, so I'm super single right now. And I feel like I'm in that kind of phase where we were just talking about this on the episode before where I think I'm, for the first time, at almost 25, I'm in my like dating era. Like I never dated. I never casually dated, and now I'm kind of doing it. And like we're talking about it a bit, and I'm like, it's gonna be so funny to like listen back.
It's so fun. I also think about like my kids someday. Yeah. We'll just like have all these conversations. They're gonna be like, oh my God, mom is like cussing on
so funny,
saying bad words. No, it's really great, and it came about. my two friends that I do it with, one is my friend Colby from college.
Okay.
My other is my friend Adam from high school.
Oh.
No, we weren't close in high school.
Okay.
We knew who each other was, but we were both like battling our own problems. And
high school is a weird time.
We didn't find ourselves together and like friends until college, actually. So we just became like a very natural trio.
Yeah.
We all have each of us has a unique take, but together we've just had really great conversations offline.
Yeah.
And I would say like together we're funny.
Yeah.
We are funny.
The dynamic.
No, it's a great dynamic. We just click record. We have no plans ever.
Yeah.
We just record, and people tend to like it. So yeah.
There's certain people that'll bring that side out of you.
No, of course, yeah. And it's
I always say too, I think I'm funnier when
I'm with her. I'm just like funny.
I'm
no,
funny.
same. No, I truly do not consider myself a funny person. But then I'll say things that I genuinely don't even mean to be funny.
That is true.
How you met Adam is actually how me and Ishika like became friends too. Because we went to the same high school, but we weren't like very close. Like we always be like, we're gonna hang out.
Like, we'd be like hi friends, you know what I mean? Like, we would like, just like kind of say hi.
Hi friends.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, we would say hi, knew each other were, but we never really spent time together. And then in college, we studied abroad together
in London.
Yeah. And then we like became really close.
Yeah,
so.
It's funny. I think the biggest miss that many people consider is like they don't, or missed opportunity rather, is high school people.
Yes.
Those people in high school, I feel like I'm so quick to dismiss my high school people. Like, just because I didn't thrive in high school, I don't consider that to be my highest self.
Yes.
So I looked around myself then, and I could still think of those people as teenagers.
Yeah,
and so,
totally.
Yeah, it was crazy when Adam and I reconnected, because it was through a friend of mine that had really been my only friend in high school.
Okay.
And then she went to college with Adam, and then they became close, and it was one of those things where, you know, she was like, can Adam come? And then we just never stopped speaking after that. No, it's great, but it's just funny because people are like, oh, you guys went to high school together? And Adam, like, we actually went to middle school together. We truly, like, we probably had, you know, several group conversations. Maybe.
Yeah, but never like,
we were
really
in class
talked.
maybe once or twice, but never deeper than that. So don't discount those high school high school non-relationships, just people that you maybe now are looking at them and thinking, oh wait, they're actually crushing it.
Right.
Or like, this is very cool.
Because I feel like sometimes they can like bring back you can feel those insecurities that you felt, or feel like you're back to that person. Like even when you go back, I feel like sometimes to your childhood home, or like you can kind of sometimes feel like, oh, I you know, like I think back to how I felt then. But it's important, I think you're right, as we are also, people change, we're changing, we're growing, and like reconnecting. We're different people. Years later,
different people now. Thank God for that.
Totally. You couldn't pay me to do high school again. I
always
say you could not pay me to do it again.
It's kind of shocking. I mean, but again, back to our earlier conversation, thank goodness I didn't have TikTok in high school. Like I had YouTube, and even then it wasn't. YouTube has become, it's still, I feel like, a safe platform in the sense it's like my safe place. And I'll speak to people now who I've become friends with through social media that are in the TikTok realm. Like that's where their largest platform, that's where they started. And they'll say to me, they're like, vlogging is so lovely. People are so nice. Granted, you will get the few people that are critical. But it does genuinely feel like, because I think it's a longer form content, and you typically get the same people coming back.
Totally.
It's on TikTok, like you said, it's like you don't know who they're going to target for your content. So it's a lot of times it's the wrong audience that don't understand.
I feel like it's a different kind of engagement, because you're right, people are spending more time with you on YouTube, so it is more of a commitment. Like you know what I mean? You feel like more connected to the person when you're watching them on YouTube. Like people that we grew up watching on YouTube too. Like I watched a bunch of British YouTubers.
So well,
and now
so did I.
Right, and now they have kids, and I feel like connected. I'm like, oh my God, it's like I know this. Like I feel like I know them, even though I don't. But on TikTok, it's like you don't really, I think, get that personal connection as much.
No, you don't, and I think you have a lot more grace for people that you watch constantly, because you're, if maybe they say something that you're like, ooh, I don't know about that, or like, that's a little out of touch. You're like, wait a minute, but I know them. And they didn't mean it like that. But if you stumble across someone that, I think for a while I was very worried about complaining on the internet, even in the small ways, because, you know, someone could just come in hot with a first world problems comment so easily, which I'm like, I agree with that. But like, if no one is complaining about, or just commenting on the small worries and fears, things like that, then those people out there that are going through the exact same thing will not see anyone speaking to those things and will think that they are alone, even if it is a first world problem. Even if it is like you're thinking to yourself, oh, I hate my job, but at least you have a job. There's always, I can think of a comment, a clap back for like
anything you say.
Anything you say. So you just have to learn to like truly not care, which is impossible for me. I've tried. I can't. I always care. I always care. Just don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you from being real.
Totally.
Because even if the real you isn't the you that someone wants from you, tough luck. Like, that's just who I am.
Exactly.
And someone out there will see that.
I really feel like if everyone likes you, then something's wrong here.
Exactly.
Because we're not all the same.
Yeah.
So if every single person that comes across your content is obsessed with it, that means that you're catering to so many people. Like, you're not, I don't know how to explain this, but you're not able to be authentic to who you are. But it's not, I feel like even in my personal life, like it's what I realized.
You're too agreeable and to everyone, but it's just, then what's your real personality?
Totally.
And then the funny part about that is like, you're gonna, even if you only say positive things, only are like the best, sunshiniest human being alive, there's still going to be someone that's not happy with that.
Totally.
People are going to be like, well, she's fake.
Exactly.
And then they start to do this thing where people love to investigate. They love to try to dig and find something. So in your past,
you feel
just in general. Yeah, when they think it's too good to be true, people get skeptical and they need to dig or criticize. Like, it's not even just you sometimes. It's like, oh, but she's dating someone and they politically they think this or they did this, and other people, it's harder to protect the other people in your life. And it's one of those things where it's like, but if you were just honest and open, then people would find enough things to criticize out in the open, so then they won't do the digging, which is just something I've seen. I'm thinking of like other people that I know. It hasn't really happened to me necessarily, but I'm like, I've seen, and I'm like, what a shame. That person is so great. Why are these people praying for their downfall?
Totally.
Were you nervous to like bring up dating life and going on dates online?
Not that, because I've been doing it for so long. I've been talking about dating and stuff. I just feel like it's something I've struggled with, so it's been easy for me to talk about that because I feel like I've had every possible problem in the book, but just no boyfriend to speak of. So I, of course, it's when I finally found someone, I thought it would be cruel to not tell anybody. I'm like, guys, I've brought you along on this journey of like trials and tribulations. Like, I owe it to you to at least tell you I'm dating someone. I think my biggest fear with that was just introducing him so publicly to everyone, because then, I mean, I had people on both sides being just, commenting and saying, oh, you shouldn't have introduced, you should keep this to yourself, this is special. But then other people just being like, I am so happy for you. And, I love, it's one of those things where I will never feel like I've done the exact right thing. But it felt good for me, and he is so understanding of everything. Like he's even seen some negative comments about him. And I was mortified. Mortified that he stumbled across negative comments about himself. And it made me, we had a very good conversation about it. It made me think like, oh my God, I need to either break up with you or quit or something. Like my fight or flight, I was like,
because you want to protect who you
right. I'm like, and it was one of those things where I wanted to protect him. I always wanted to protect the people around me. But I am who I am. It's kind of like Taylor Swift, Peace, the song that she made, where she's pretty much like, I will never bring you peace. There will always be something. Like any person she dates, there will always be a tabloid. There will always be someone making them into a meme or something. And not that I'm at all at that level, but I do feel similarly, like it doesn't matter who I date, there's always going to be, even if, again, back to my earlier thing, if I hadn't said who he was, people would have figured it out.
They would have sleuthed.
I'm just going to make it easy and at least paint him in a good light, like so if they it's crazy what you see.
But that's amazing you guys were able to have that conversation from it.
Right. And he pretty much said, he's like, you get 10 times more hate than my several comments. So he said he's like, I don't care.
That's true.
He definitely he'll joke about it.
That's
a joke, But it definitely made me a bit more on high alert.
Yeah.
Because I was always just worried about, I'm like, okay, people can say what they want to say about me. But say something about my friends and the people I love.
Yeah.
And then it gets, and then I feel some sort of way about it.
Right. I'm like, I can handle it after this many years, but these people are new to it. And I've also seen that with my podcast with my two friends. It's I of course am used to the never read your podcast reviews. That's one thing I've learned. Never read the podcast reviews. People are nasty for no reason.
I think they think that no one's gonna see them there because it's a little more hidden.
They want to dock the rating down. Or they want you to feel bad because there's no other way to comment. So I've noticed, my podcast reviews with my friends, like some of them are so unnecessarily nasty, and my friends are like, oh my God, I'm like, you read the reviews? Don't read the reviews. Do not read the reviews.
It's good that you're like on that side where like you've experienced that. So like bringing your friends in, it's like, guys, like don't do that.
No, I'm like, take it from me. Don't read the reviews.
But
with my relationship, it's I know I found the right person because he has like handled it so well.
It's that like I also found my boyfriend in the city after going, it was like a year and a half of like good dates, bad dates, all in between. But I think it's like so crazy when you have those conversations with that person and they're like so understanding. You can be so raw and real. But with all the other dates that I probably went on with people in the past, I just never had that. To like finally find that person, it feels very meaningful.
No, I always thought to myself, because of course I've been single since this relationship, but I've still gone on dates and such. And I've always I've always known that it was going to be, it was always looming over my head that social media might pose a problem. Just the way that I talk about my life so openly, I always knew that was going to be a roadblock. And with him, it just never seemed to be. Like, it was one of those things where I was talking about our dates on my podcast, Match Made, in great detail. And for a while, people always ask, they're like, are you worried about him finding it? And I'm like, first of all, he's not big on social media. He, I think, has like 400 followers. Like, he's not a social media guy. So that was a green flag for me personally, because I was like, great, he won't see it. I was like, great, little old me thinking, I can say whatever. My podcast is in my bio. Linked, could not be easier to find.
That's funny.
He won't find it.
That's funny.
Of course he found it.
Did he listen to?
Oh yeah, he was listening.
Funny.
He listened to about 4 episodes, like 4 weeks worth.
Where you talked about him.
Oh, of course, we gave him a nickname.
That's so.
We called him Prince Harry because he's British, and that was his nickname.
So
he didn't like that one. He was like, "Really? Do you think I'm Prince Harry?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't realize this was so."
You're getting touchy.
Really.
That's funny.
So, but he was listening for 4 or 5 episodes before, and I remember the date we went to Blind Tiger, this bar. It was like a nightcap after dinner, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "I have a confession," and I was like, "Oh God, what is he gonna say?" I'm like, "No, this is going so well. Don't say something bad." And I'm like, "Please, just don't say it. Don't say it." He goes, "I've been listening." And he just said, "I've been listening." That's all. And I knew what he meant. And I was mortified. I don't know why. I'm like, I did not do anything to conceal this.
To like prevent this from happening.
He knew I made social. It just takes one Google. You know, I told him, it was funny because on my Hinge profile I said that I work in social media, like very vague. And of course, with Hinge now you don't have last names. So I'm actually grateful that they took that feature. Because I remember that thinking, like, they're giving us way too much information. You can still find them.
Totally. As girls, we would still find that.
But it's just nice that now it's, it was just Jack was his name on there. She's Katy, but works in social media. And he goes, I didn't know what to expect. Didn't expect this. But he's like, I'm cool with it. Green flag. So I mean, nothing that he does for work, like me vlogging, me posting about him would never impact his work. Which was always a concern of mine. And of course, it's one of I feel like I see this argument with posting kids online, posting children. It's like, of course I have different opinions about that, and I will have probably a completely new set of opinions once I have kids.
Once you have a kid,
I don't know because I don't have children, but people say it's some people's opinion is it's okay to post them if it's in a positive light. If they're having a tantrum, I'm not going to film that because that's embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing to put that out there.
Totally.
So why would I ever, especially because they don't have any control at this point, they're too young. So I feel that way about my boyfriend. It's like I will post him in a positive light. Not saying that everything's always positive in our relationship, but it's just unfair to post things where he would maybe feel uncomfortable.
I agree.
Because it's not his page, it's mine, and he has no control over, right. Yeah, so has been my strategy so far.
Yeah,
I agree, and I do think there's like a push to make social media more real, which I think is so important. But also, I think you do have to realize that it's never going to be full, like you're
fully
still
real.
editing and posting something, right? You're still somewhat considering. There's a TikToker I watch, her name is Mary Skinner. I love her.
Wait, I love Mary.
And she talked about this once where she basically
she
was like, you're never gonna fully see the real me. Like, I'm never gonna tell you every single time I'm feeling anxious or every single time, you know, like I'm gonna try my best to be honest, but you should just know that whoever you're watching, like, take it with a grain of salt. Like, everything is not as good or bad as it seems, you know?
I do feel like this might be something that people find a problem with, but I don't think it's my responsibility as a creator to show you everything.
I don't either.
I mean, you have to think about your digital footprint.
Yes.
Things you post can be found, even if you delete it.
Yes.
They can be found.
They just live forever. Yeah.
I think some people don't remember that.
Yeah. That's
once
true.
you post something, once it's out of your camera roll, it can be manipulated. It can, and I, of course, like when you're kind of carried away and you're excited and whatever, you kind of forget those things. But I've actually been good. Oddly enough, I remember this because in college I was posting content and such, and this is before I had gotten my job, so I was like, you know, I need to appear a certain way for potential recruiters and whatnot, and so you gotta like watch out. And of course, my friends and I was in a sorority, and they were very critical of the things we posted. Like even when I was 21 years old, I couldn't post alcohol or even a cup in my hand
because they would tell you to take it down.
There's just certain rules, and so I was very good then.
Okay.
And it kind of trained me, like, there's one, I have an issue where I don't really post on the weekends.
Okay.
Ever. Because it's just so ingrained in my head that I'm like, don't post anything while you are drinking. Because like, heaven forbid someone is saying something.
Even though it's like
so normal.
So, it's, I have a certain way of that, but then I'll see other people posting like while they're out, and I'm like, wow, you're brave.
I
need to sit down and listen to that and look at it, make sure no one, like, everyone's shirts are on okay. You know, you never know these things.
I agree.
Watch out.
I'm the same way. I feel like, I mean, I'm not a big creator, but I feel like whenever I'm posting online, there's like certain things that I just won't share, or I'm like with certain friends that I know they wouldn't like it if I like posted all about them, because I have friends who don't use social media at all. They don't even have an Instagram account.
Right.
And I don't want to be like fully exposing them.
Yeah.
So it's like that balance of choosing.
Also just having a good time in the moment.
Yeah.
I've definitely struggled with that, and just knowing you start to learn it's a time and place sort of thing.
Yeah.
You do, but then there's moments where I'm like, darn, I wish I got that on camera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, no. I was actually thinking that recently because I saw a friend of mine who's a social media creator just got engaged.
Okay.
And she was answering questions, and she said, someone was like, is there a video or photos of him proposing? And she's like, no. And we did that on purpose. I filmed my entire life. It's nice to have one thing that isn't recorded. And I'm like, you know what? I love that. That's going to be, I think that's my goal here. Because it's, you know, it's, there are times where seeing yourself on camera, or especially if you're critical of yourself in a very important moment, will make the moment less special.
Totally.
Because you'll be like, oh no, I have a double chin. So, which of course, like maybe that could just
also,
be me.
I think
I'm very critical of
I'm
myself. You know, like that would ruin it for me.
Also,
maybe I'll just remember it being magical, and that's it.
Exactly. I think when you're content creating, like the blur between your life and your job is just
the line is blurred.
The line is blurred, right? Because your job is to live your life. So it's like you do need to kind of separate. Everyone needs to separate from their job. You can't just constantly be working. Like you need to be able to just like be in the moment, not be thinking about creating. That's so important. So I think it's like finding those boundaries for yourself.
But then there's the guilt of, because I do feel connected to my followers. I feel like we're all kind of
like friends.
No, we are.
You've been online for so long too.
So I feel like I'm like, oh, I gotta I call them the people. I gotta show the people this. And like my dad, my parents are so great with all of it. I'm very lucky. Like the second they found out that I had this YouTube channel and whatnot, they were so supportive. My dad loves telling this story that when I was working in an ice cream shop when I was first starting out, to like get my my money for the mall and whatnot. So I was doing that, and then came the time where I was actually making more money on YouTube. But it was a weird thing, 'cause I was like so embarrassed about it that I was making money for some reason. I don't know why. Because I knew that, so at that time, I think it's probably the same now. It's like when you start on YouTube, you get to a certain following. You can apply for like the partner program.
Right.
When you have like 4,000 followers or something. And then from there, you register for Google AdSense and then set up the ads and everything. Right. But in order to be monetized, like you need to have a tax ID number or social security, like just stuff like that, which as a 15-year-old, I could not do. I needed my parents to register for. I don't think you can register for an EIN
as a minor.
As a minor.
You need their consent or something.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, I would see this like notification pop up that I was like making money, but I couldn't withdraw it until I had, and I also didn't have a bank account. I don't think. Like I genuinely don't think I did.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had to go to my parents and be like, can I have a tax ID number? Can you guys help me? I was thinking my birthday's coming up.
Yeah. Can I ask for a tax ID?
Because you also have to pay to register. And I didn't have money. Like I did, like, but not that much. And I'm like, I think it was, it wasn't crazy. But for a teenager, so my dad loves to say, he's like, yeah, Katie came and said, Dad, what's a tax ID number? He loves that.
That's so funny.
But they helped me with that and then got me set up. And
that's funny.
were always my biggest cheerleaders, but not in the sense where they were ever trying to force me to do anything. They weren't like child star parents.
Yeah.
It
there's
was
so much
helpful
about that right now, too.
Oh, of course, with the Nickelodeon.
With the documentary.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Very scary.
So Jeanette McCurdy wrote a book, and I went to like her book signing and everything when she did it. I'm a big reader. I love to read, and I was like, it's just crazy. I listened to her story and this documentary. Yeah.
You went to her show too,
where she signed the book.
Yeah.
She signed the book and like did like a little interview and Q&A, and I went.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And she was so cool about it too. She just like really wanted to go, but didn't know.
I went alone.
She went alone, and I was like,
you know what? I've always been a big reader, but I think I'm like needing to find some reader friends who read what I read. So I'm like, you know what? Until I'm fully able to find that community, I don't want to like miss out on things that I want to go to.
No,
because of that. So I was like, I'm just gonna go, and it was near Bryant Park. It's somewhere. And I just kind of went, had a night. It was fun.
I'm getting better at doing things alone. I've always, I think what holds me back is I'm such an overthinker. I think about what everyone else is thinking. I overthink my own thoughts. But then when I'm done with that, I overthink everyone else's thoughts. So I look around and I'm like, oh my God, if I'm like eating lunch by myself, for example. I look around and like, everyone's definitely feeling bad for me right now. Everyone is definitely wondering, why is she here alone? Does she have any friends? They don't care. I look around, I see a girl fabulously eating alone, and I think, wow, good for her.
Yeah, like main character energy. Good for you.
Because sometimes I want to go sit and eat lunch, but I don't have anyone to go with. But I'm just like, oh no, I'll just pick up a salad and eat it on my couch. Why?
Totally.
No, there's definitely, that needs to be worked on my part.
Yeah, it is hard.
The fear of being alone.
Totally.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I think I also I like a good like coffee shop on my own moment. Like I kind of like.
It is main character energy.
I just feel like it's my like a reconnection time with myself, and I think I always say I'm an introvert. Like I get my energy from being alone, so I kind of will take my journal, take a book, and just kind of have like my Sunday.
Charge up.
It's like my little recharge.
Oh so yeah. No, I think I especially need that now more than ever. I've always lived alone. Brief stint in LA where I had a couple of roommates, but that was like very brief. I've typically
lived alone.
Which at first my friends were like, that's crazy. Do you feel unsafe? I'm like, no. That's never crossed my mind.
Now that you say that.
I'm like, thanks.
You're like, should I feel scared now?
No, but besides that, then people are like, well, do you ever like feel lonely? And I'm like, no, I'm set up with this, great support group of friends in the city that I'm lucky for that. But I also, like you, I do recharge with being alone. I do love my like extroverted scenarios where I get to go to parties or events and whatnot, but then I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Now I have a boyfriend who I'm with constantly. Like he's at my apartment right now. I'm like, I now more than ever need my alone time. So I go on my walks. I do just, yoga by myself.
I'm a huge hot yoga person.
Oh, I love
hot yoga.
Me too.
Core power.
Do you do sculpt or do you do?
I do sculpt. Yeah,
I love hot yoga.
But I love it, and I go at like random times. Like I like trying out all the new instructors and stuff. But it's purely me time, and like I feel kind of guilty because sometimes my friends are like, "Oh, I want to come." I'm like, oh, cool, maybe another time. Yeah. I'm like, no, this is my me time. Yeah. Do not let me sacrifice my me time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in a relationship right now, and I was like, just thinking like what you were just saying about like that balance between alone time and also being with him. Do you ever like struggle with like trying to find that balance? Because I remember when I was first dating my boyfriend, I was like always telling Ishika, I was like, dude, I don't have any alone time. Like I don't know, because it's different.
Like I have alone time, friends,
but it just like looks different. I don't have as much as I used to.
Well, I thought in the beginning, because again, this is my first relationship. I was like, does this mean I don't like him?
Yeah.
That I want time without him? Does this mean, is this a red flag?
Wait, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
So I'm like, I'm the worst, because my brain always goes to, we should just break up.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I doing that? No, I love him. I love his company.
Yeah.
But it's going from being living alone to now sharing my space with another person constantly.
Yeah.
And of course I would have my friends over a lot, but they weren't sleeping over every night.
Right.
And it's not an every night thing. Like I go to his apartment, but I live alone, he lives with his brother. So it's sometimes makes more sense to
come to yours.
Come to mine, or if his brother wants to like have people over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's become this thing where I'm like, Katie, every little thing where I'm like, ooh, that's uncomfortable, or that's not something I'm used to, is not a sign that I should break up with him. It's me having that conversation with myself. Calm down.
That's a good way to put it.
That is such a good point. So I started going to therapy once getting a relationship, because like I was having very similar thoughts. Because like when I had a boyfriend when I was in high school, and I feel like since then, I really haven't put myself out there in dating because I had like so much trauma from it. And when you get into a relationship again, there's like a lot of things that come up from your past that you don't realize, or at least I experienced that.
Like some unlearning.
Yeah, and I was honestly doing the same thing that you were doing. Like every time something would come up, I'd be like, I'd like have to get out of this.
You're so right with the unlearning part, because even though I hadn't had like an official relationship before, I'd gone on dates, I'd hooked up with guys before. And it's really funny because one moment from the first day that Jack and I like had a sleepover.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was crazy because it was our first date.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was our first date.
Okay.
Of course, I'm like, oh no, we can't sleep together on the first date. We did. It worked out. It's fine.
Yeah. There's no rule.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We like, and we had some drinks and whatnot. Yeah. I think I woke up at like 4 a.m. because he was like getting up and putting his pants on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, is he about to leave?
He's going to leave me?
No, and I thought to myself, I'm like, oh my God, of course he's going to leave.
Yeah.
That's Katie. Dumb. That's why you don't sleep with him on the first date.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And of course I'm like blaming myself. I'm thinking, because this has happened to me before.
Yeah.
And so of course I'm thinking that, and I sit up in bed and I go, typical. I don't remember what I said, but I said something. I was like, of course, where are you going? And I'm pissed. And he goes, to the bathroom? I'm like, oh.
That is so
because my apartment's 2 floors.
Yeah.
So I think it like makes sense to, I don't know, put your underwear on. Whatever, like be comfortable.
Yeah.
But apparently I just really had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because I had to unlearn the way I'd been treated in the past.
Yeah. I think with me now, like dating for the first time, for me, I'm learning a lot of insecurities. Exactly. Like feeling certain ways or feeling super conscious with men before. So now it's just me learning to be, I don't know, to care less what they think about me. And it's like, do I like you?
Yeah.
Which I don't think I ever used to think of when I dated before.
Oh, I had such a problem with that.
Right?
Yeah.
I was so focused. I'm like, I hope they think I'm amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
And like my friends would be like, how was it? I'm like, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like them. I don't know if I find them cute. I really don't know anything.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like I used to be so in my head that I couldn't really tell
if they...
Yeah, I wasn't present. So I couldn't tell, do I actually like you? I'm like so conscious about how I'm coming off or like whatever, all these things in my head. And so now I feel like I'm, like after getting some more like dating experience, but feeling better with myself, I feel like I go into dating with a lot less of those nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of the pressure off of it, and it also just makes it so you have a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting someone new. At the end of the day, it's a boy. Yeah. And I just like had to think of it when I was also dating too. I was like, you're just a man.
Yeah.
No, I think the game changer for me in dating, which I wish I'd done sooner, was I would always schedule plans around my dates.
Yes.
Like in the beginning, I never did that because I'm like, well, what if I'm having a great time and I want to stay? I'm like, no, don't go into it thinking that.
Yes.
You know, don't go into thinking it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But go into it thinking, like, this is, if it's going to feel like a job interview, because it's going to.
Yeah.
First dates always feel like a job interview.
Yeah.
You might as well have something to look forward to afterwards.
Totally.
Or, you know. So I went to dinner. Before I met Jack, our first date, I went to dinner with my friends.
Okay.
And they were all going out after in, like, near where my date was.
So you're like a had an out kind
So
of.
I said to myself, I'm giving him an hour
Yeah.
to wow me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe not wow me, just not put me to sleep.
Like,
not make me,
yeah.
like, I need to feel maybe not a spark. I always say this because I didn't feel like a spark on our first date.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I laughed.
Yeah.
And that, to me, at first, I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But then after that, I'm like, it grows.
It grows.
Yeah.
Once you kind of let your guard down.
Mm-hmm.
That's
But
such
I
a good
had
point.
plans. And I told him, that's the key.
You
Come in and say, hey, so excited. Well, warn them before. Don't
Yeah.
surprise, I have a dinner.
Yeah.
No, like the day before, be like, oh, I'm so excited for our date. Just FYI, I'm meeting up with some friends at this time.
Okay.
But still give him like ample time to
Have
do
it,
something.
yeah.
That's a really
Talk.
good. That's
Yeah.
good advice
Yeah.
for me.
I also did that on my
you
date
did
with-
do that on your
No, it
date.
gives you an
Yeah.
out. It gives you an
Yeah.
out. So if you're someone like me that hates giving bad news,
Yes.
have an out. It's a plan.
Yeah.
It's an honest
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Do you think it's better to let them know in the beginning or in the middle or toward
No,
the
in
end?
the beginning.
In the beginning.
Before,
yeah.
so they don't think it's a cop out.
Or like an
Okay.
excuse.
Because of course, you know,
Yeah.
I've heard stories where someone will bring up, and then it's like, well, obviously they're just not having a good time, and
Yeah.
or they come up with some crazy excuse,
And
Yeah.
it's really obvious.
and it's
yeah.
just so obvious. I mean, I will still, at the end of the day, I might not like someone, but I'm going to protect their feelings.
Yes.
I'm going to make it feel. It will feel like it's my fault when we break up. You know, it's like I had this like go-to anti-ghost text that I would say,
Yeah.
and it was just always like along the lines of "It's not you, it's me."
Yeah.
Which, of course, I have thoughts about. I'm like, no, you should never, like, apologize.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, you know what? I'm never going to see them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them think that it's my fault. Sure. Why
That's
not?
Yeah. I don't
Why
really
not?
care what you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Were you
But
ever a ghoster?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it
in the
took a
beginning?
few of those
Yeah.
times and just the guilt that I would feel. I wasn't a
Yeah.
ghoster. I was a fader. I would fade out, and then they would just, like, never hear from me again.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I would keep, like, not canceling, like, pushing. Yeah. Like, we
Right.
would, like, have a date, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Until they got the picture, which, as a person that has received that, I don't feel like it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going, like, if I see them on the street and be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you're a terrible person. But it didn't really, like, make me feel great doing
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
I always felt a lot better after I'd sent a text being like, I'm so sorry. Actually, no, I never even said sorry. I
Yeah.
would say, hi, so-and-so. I just don't feel like we have a connection.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish you luck.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And it's not either of ours fault.
It's
It's just
not.
the compatibility.
And
Yeah.
it's a clear response. It's like,
Yeah.
this is how I feel.
Yes.
And there's nothing they can say
Yes.
to be like, well, but I don't feel that there is a connection. Never say like it's anything they've done. Don't
Yes.
give them an answer, even if they beg you
Right.
to tell them what's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't tell them. There was times where I went on a date with someone, and this is going to sound so petty,
Yeah.
but I didn't like how their voice sounded.
Yeah.
Literally,
fair.
But I'm like, I cannot. You might be the best person in the world.
Yeah.
If I can't
You're just
hear
not my
you speak
person.
without
Yeah.
cringing,
Yeah.
someone else will not have an issue with
Yeah.
that. How do I tell them that over text?
Yeah.
It would have been great if it wasn't for your voice. That's why you just say, I
Oh
don't
my
feel like
gosh.
Yes.
we are compatible.
That is
Yes.
And
perfect.
there's nothing people can say. So,
Yeah.
of course, I started with the slow fade, but I always felt so much better
Yeah.
after I said
The
that.
Yeah.
directness.
It's hard,
Yeah.
but once you do it, it just like takes the load
You
off.
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Well, again, post and ghost.
Yes.
Send
Yeah.
the text, get
And
in the
then-
shower.
That's such a good
I
point.
delete
or
the
like
text.
put your phone away.
Yeah.
I also like what you said about like not having to feel that spark on the first date. I feel like now we have this, I don't know, it's like
Pressure.
yeah, you feel like, oh my god, I
Yeah.
need to feel it right away, or the attraction needs to come right away.
No.
And definitely feel interested. Don't feel like anti-interested. But
Yeah.
as long as you're like feeling it a little bit, I feel like it's
Yeah.
so okay to keep exploring
Yeah.
that.
I
think
always
that's good
think the
advice.
first date is like a good way to determine if you want to see them again. Like, is this person worth like having
Would you
another
ta- yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
with, or like I just don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't really care to see you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the conversation was easy. It flowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
And I tell this story often, but his friends actually showed up on our first date
Okay.
accidentally.
Oh.
He had scheduled us to go to this, or not scheduled. I don't even know. We went and met up at a bar. It was very casual. both of us will tell the story now that we felt like we were kind of done with dating.
Yeah.
And then we matched. It's always like, oh, I was so sick of it. It was right before summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was May that we matched. So like almost a year ago. And I was like, I'm going to go on one more date. Like, I'm so over it.
Yeah.
I had gone on just some like, come on sort of dates. It was just like, oh God, really?
What is happening? Yeah.
Like, why? I'm like, why do I put myself in, like, I remember going on dates and coming home being like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I should have just stayed in. But I went on this last date and it's Wilfie and Nell in West Village, if you've ever been. It's like the best. I love Wilfie and Nell. It's just the best bar.
Okay.
Yeah, casual. Very chill.
Yeah.
I'd gone to dinner before, like I said. I just like rolled in, 2 martinis deep. Like, great. Okay, let me just get a beer. Like, it was just casual. And his friends were going to a wedding.
Okay.
And so they came in for they usually go to it's like their bar, which I'm like, you picked like your go-to bar to bring me? How lazy is that?
You did. That's funny.
No, he was like, I was just so done with dating. I'm like, sure, like let's just, whatever. But I'm glad we both were on the same page.
Yeah.
Anyway, and his friends walked in, saw the back of his head. We were standing at this like pillar, and it was like one of those little like tables that was like a standing table.
Yeah.
And they saw the back of him when they walked in. They didn't see that he was talking to me. They thought he was just there alone.
Okay.
Which I guess is something he does.
That's happened before.
He's done that before. Sure, just blowing off some steam. And one of his friends kicks him in the back of the leg. To like be like, hey,
joke. Oh,
like, what are you doing here? Why are you alone? Why didn't you tell us? More like they were pissed that he didn't tell them that he was going to be there. And he turns around, and as they're coming around the pillar, they see me, and they're like mortified.
They're like, abort.
So that we laughed about that. That was the first 10 minutes into our date.
Wow.
I'm like, thank God I pre-gamed this.
Yeah.
But it was great. Yeah.
Like, good thing there were some martinis involved.
It was one of those kinds of dates where I walked out of it. I mean, we hooked up that night. Like, we definitely had a connection.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I am obsessed with you. Like, I remember, I think I had also felt like I've just gotten my hopes up before.
Yeah.
So I wanted to stay level with it.
Yeah. Have your guard up a little.
I didn't think after our first date, like, I'm going to marry this guy.
Yeah.
But now that we've been together for a bit and I've seen certain sides of, like, parts of him that I would never have seen on the first date, I'm glad that I gave him a chance.
Totally. I think that's real, and I think I'm realizing that too now.
Relationship building like takes time, whether it's with friends or like with a significant other as well. I think you get that feeling after you meet them for a while because you actually get to know them, see what they like, actually get to laugh. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it takes time, and people, I think more people should know that.
Yeah. First dates are awkward. Like,
they are.
You're nervous, they're nervous, who knows? Maybe sometimes you're just like, you know, it just, you're too in your head. Like, you could just like miss each other sometimes, you know?
Absolutely.
Even though you're like, could be compatible, it's just like not completely gelling in the moment. So I do think like it can warrant another chance for sure.
I remember when I had met my boyfriend, the first date was really good. I also gave him an hour and I had a friend's birthday party after.
The best.
And I brought him to the birthday because I was like, what the heck? Why not? Yeah. I was in my like, why not with dating. I was just like, whatever, let's just do it. And it ended up just being a fun date. But it wasn't anything crazy. I liked him. I liked being around with him. Yeah. And then Thanksgiving happened. We had like a weird period because you weren't really texting. It's the holidays. There's an awkward time. Like, do I text him Happy Thanksgiving? Like, I don't know.
Like, do I say?
I don't miss that time of just being like, should I text him? Yeah. I text him like a strain of what is it?
Stream of consciousness.
I'm like, just saw this. Might get this for lunch. Like literally, like we should go to the beach.
It's so nice now.
I remember when I used to see his name pop up and be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's funny how things change though.
Yeah. And then our second date was after Thanksgiving. I hadn't seen him for like 2-3 weeks. Very awkward date. I honestly got the ick. He was so nervous. Like, had a whole bunch of questions that he had lined up to ask me. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't there. And I remember talking to Ishika and some of our friends after. And I was like, this is what happened. Like, I just don't really feel it. They were like, just go on. Yeah. You're curious, just go one more if you don't like this one. Yeah. And then on that third day, I just got like a weird feeling.
Yeah. Like a good feeling.
Yeah, it was like a weird good feeling. We like did an activity. We went mini golfing.
I did that on the date too. Oh my God.
First, I think it brings a boy's personality out because they get a little competitive and they like...
No, it's hard to see someone's full personality like just at, on a date. And
That's true.
it definitely takes time. For
sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it was great conversation.
This was really, really fun.
Covered a lot of ground, huh?
We did. Do you have like an ending note about like any advice, whether it be with dating, with content creation, anything in general?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's this known concept where you tend to in your life regret inaction more than action.
What you don't do versus
I
what you
love
do.
that because it is true. You can do something and it doesn't work out. But then you at least have an answer as to what would have happened if you did it.
Yeah.
And that's something that you won't regret as much as if you had like done something that or not done something.
That's amazing.
So
and you
I
always
think
learn.
You always do.
Oh my God, yeah. It's all pushing you in the direction that you're supposed to go.
Amazing. I love that advice.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on this week's episode. It was a lot of fun. And as always, let us know if you want any specific guests or have any specific topic ideas that you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll hear you and we see you. But yeah, thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast episode. We'll leave all of Katy's
information,
socials and everything down below. But yeah, thanks so much for listening and watching, and you'll see us next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.
Lovely. Great.
That was such a fun episode.